The signal came from the void, faint and strange, a whisper carried across the stars that Earth wasn't prepared to hear. But when it reached the most advanced listening post on Mars, it wasn't just a strange anomaly. It was a call. The world held its breath as scientists at the Mars Deep Space Observatory scrambled to decode the signal. The encryption was unlike anything they had ever seen, a pattern of zeros and ones that folded in on itself like a maze. It wasn't just an alien message. It was a warning. "We found something," Dr. Ava Reese, the lead scientist at the observatory, said in a voice that crackled over the intercom. "And it's not what we expected." Ava's fingers hovered over the controls, her face pale in the harsh glow of the screens around her. The message had been static, scrambled. But in that chaos, a distinct signature was emerging. Something that wasn't supposed to be there. "No, you don't understand," she added, her voice trembling. "This is close. Closer than anything we've ever encountered. Whoever or whatever sent this, they're right on the edge of our solar system." The news spread across the globe in a matter of hours. Governments scrambled. Military units were put on high alert. The idea of extraterrestrial life had always been a distant possibility in the minds of Earth's citizens. But now, that distant possibility had come too close for comfort. Days passed as the signal continued its erratic pattern. It would stop for hours, then return in bursts, as if it were searching for something or someone. But the real shock came when they finally deciphered the message. Asterisk, "This galaxy is yours for the taking. But know this, what awaits you is far worse than anything you've ever imagined. You are not alone here, and we do not want you." Asterisk. The world went silent. For the first time since the discovery of deep space travel, humanity faced the reality of a universe much darker than they had ever imagined. The signals were clear. Someone or something was warning them away. But they were too late. Earth had already heard the call. The United Nations called for an emergency summit. Satellites and probes, previously launched to study the stars, now pivoted toward the coordinates hinted at in the decoded message. Every scientist, every military strategist, and every leader of the global powers worked feverishly to understand one thing: what was out there, just beyond the reach of their telescopes. Dr. Reese was no stranger to pressure. Her career had been built on deep space exploration, and the discovery of the alien message had turned her into the face of the greatest mystery humanity had ever encountered. Yet, even she couldn't shake the growing sense of dread that came with each passing day. The more data they gathered, the clearer it became that this galaxy, the one the signal had pointed to, wasn't just a new frontier. It was a battlefield. And Earth was about to become a pawn in a war older than anything they could fathom. "We need to send a probe," Reese suggested, her voice steady but edged with urgency. "We can't wait any longer. We need to know who's out there." The pressure from the military to act was immense. There was no room for hesitation. The probe launched within the week, its sleek form hurtling toward the edge of the solar system, a beacon in the darkness. As the probe neared the coordinates, the data that flooded back to Earth was like nothing anyone had prepared for. The stars themselves seemed to shudder as it passed through them, and then there it was, a new galaxy, invisible to the naked eye, but glaring through the screen with a presence that seemed almost alive. Before they could fully process the implications, a second signal pierced through the noise of space, stronger this time, louder, more deliberate. It was coming directly from the new galaxy. "Earth," the message said simply. "We see you. Prepare for what comes next." The Earth's communications network went dark for a moment. A glitch. Or was it? Everyone's attention was fixed on the monitor in the observatory control room, where the words appeared again, this time clearer than ever. Asterisk, "You have no idea what you're facing. And yet we will give you a choice." Asterisk. But before they could react, the signal stopped abruptly. Silence. Then a sharp pulse of static erupted, shaking the observatory's foundations. A fleet, vast and dark, appeared at the edge of Earth's monitoring system. A fleet unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. And Earth's first alien encounter was no longer a peaceful message. It was a warning. Humanity was not prepared for what was coming. The first shot was silent, a ripple in space, barely perceptible to human eyes, but unmistakable to the systems monitoring Earth. The enemy had arrived, and this time there would be no negotiations. When the fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, it wasn't with the grandiosity of a galactic conqueror. There were no glowing warships or declarations of dominance. It was quiet, almost too quiet, as if the very fabric of space around Earth had bent in anticipation of something worse. General Marcus O'Hara, commander of the Earth Defense Forces, had been in the military long enough to understand one thing. The silence meant danger. His communications officer, Lieutenant Carr Vasquez, was the first to report the anomaly. "Sir," she said, voice tight with barely contained panic, "the fleet, it's here. But they're not moving. They're just waiting." O'Hara stood at the front of the command center, staring at the screens before him. It had only been days since Earth had discovered the existence of the new galaxy, but now the consequences of that discovery were all too real. A massive alien fleet, unlike anything they had encountered before, loomed just beyond their defensive perimeter. "Is there any communication from them?" O'Hara asked, his voice steady despite the growing pressure. Lieutenant Vasquez's hands hovered over the keyboard, trying desperately to make contact. Nothing. No messages. No broadcasts. Just silence. This wasn't like the usual encounters Earth's military had prepared for. It wasn't a scouting mission. It wasn't an exploratory vessel. This was something different, something far worse. General O'Hara had spent years preparing for a moment like this. His forces had engaged in hundreds of war games, trained for every conceivable scenario. Yet nothing could have prepared him for this. An enemy that didn't want anything from Earth except to eliminate it. The reality of the situation began to sink in. The galaxy they had discovered wasn't a friendly one. The alien message had been clear. Earth was not wanted. And what was worse, they had made no effort to communicate further. The fleet, though imposing, was not here to negotiate peace or offer alliances. They were here to assert their dominance, and they would not hesitate to destroy Earth if it stood in their way. "Launch the defense fleet," O'Hara ordered, the command heavy with finality. On Earth's moon, Earth's first line of defense had already been prepared, a fleet of state-of-the-art warships that had been in development for years. Fast, heavily armed, and capable of taking on anything the galaxy could throw at them. Or so they thought. Within minutes, the command center was flooded with reports from the newly deployed ships. The fleet, led by Admiral Sarah Klein, was heading straight for the alien armada, weapon systems online and ready to fire. The tension in the command center was suffocating. All eyes were fixed on the screen as Earth's fleet moved toward the alien ships. "Report, Admiral," O'Hara barked into the comms. Admiral Klein's voice came through, calm but strained. "General, we've engaged. But they're not responding. The ships, they're moving, but in ways we can't track. The movements are erratic, almost random." "Random." O'Hara's brow furrowed. "You're telling me their ships don't follow any predictable trajectory?" "They don't. It's like they're warping space itself around them." The voice on the other end cracked as the Admiral struggled to grasp the implications. "We've locked weapons, but I don't think we'll hit them. These ships, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. Their design, it's fluid. Like they're not even bound by the same laws of physics we are." O'Hara's gut twisted. If the aliens weren't bound by predictable physics, that meant they could do things Earth's technology couldn't counter. This wasn't a fight they could win with their current assets. "Prepare for Phase 2, O'Hara said, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Activate the secondary defense systems. All ground forces, be ready." As the fleet continued to engage, Earth's military unleashed its final gambit, an experimental weapon designed to disrupt and neutralize enemy shields. If this didn't work, there would be nothing left to try. On Earth's surface, the international community watched in disbelief as the skies above seemed to darken with the sheer presence of the alien ships. Each moment that passed without a decisive strike felt like an eternity. And then the first blow fell. A beam of energy, so concentrated and powerful that it briefly outshone the sun, cut across the battlefield, hitting one of Earth's warships. The vessel disintegrated in an instant, reduced to nothing more than a flash of light and debris. The Earth Defense Fleet had just been proven powerless in the face of this superior technology. General Vasquez's voice broke through, sounding unerringly calm. "We've received another message from the fleet." O'Hara's stomach churned. "What's it say?" A moment of silence followed before Vasquez's voice returned, flat and devoid of emotion. "We are here to watch you burn." And with that, the war had truly begun. The fate of Earth rested on the shoulders of those who were brave enough to face the unimaginable. The enemy had already shown their hand, and Earth was now a pawn on a battlefield much larger than any could have anticipated. The galaxy wasn't just a new frontier. It was a graveyard, one that Earth was now part of. And the truth about the universe's darkest corners was only just beginning to unfold. When Earth's fleet was reduced to nothing more than burnt husks in the vacuum of space, humanity's worst fears began to solidify. It wasn't just a military defeat, it was the beginning of an extinction-level threat. The alien ships, more advanced than anything Earth had imagined, had annihilated their defenses with chilling efficiency. But there was more at play here than just a superior enemy. Back on Earth, General O'Hara and Dr. Averies found themselves facing the same question. Why? Why had the fleet come? And why had they destroyed Earth's forces without a single word? To understand their enemy, they would first need to understand the galaxy they had just discovered. The first clues came from the remaining data, hidden in the encrypted alien message. Dr. Reese had spent countless hours decoding the fragmented signal, trying to make sense of the chaos. The pattern of the message, once deciphered, revealed a chilling truth. "This galaxy," she began, speaking to O'Hara as the data flashed on her screen, "isn't like ours. It's not just a random collection of stars and planets. It's a war zone." O'Hara watched as the data scrolled across the screen. Maps, star charts, and images of star systems all pointed to the same grim conclusion. The new galaxy was a battlefield, a galaxy at war for millions of years. Ancient and ruthless factions fought endlessly, their conflicts sweeping across entire star systems. The galaxy was on the brink of collapse, and Earth was now caught in the crossfire. "The aliens we're facing," Dr. Reese continued, "they're not conquerors. They're survivors. Fugitives. They've been fleeing something far worse. The truth about the galaxy's most dominant force, a mysterious entity known only as the Devourer, slowly took shape in their minds. The creature had no known form, no tangible shape. It was said to be a consuming force, devouring entire planets, leaving nothing behind but dust and ash. And the worst part? The alien fleet that had attacked Earth wasn't here to conquer. It was running. "They've been hunted for centuries," Dr. Reese said, her voice filled with a grim realization. "And now they found us. They see Earth as just another obstacle in their path, a planet they need to destroy before the Devourer gets to it." O'Hara felt a coldness creep over him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about preventing Earth from becoming another casualty in a war too vast and too ancient to understand. Dr. Reese scrolled through more files, each more disturbing than the last. "There's a history of civilizations trying to escape the Devourer, but none have succeeded. They've been wiped out one by one. The fleet we're dealing with now is one of the last groups of survivors, hiding from the true threat." The reality was worse than they had imagined. Earth wasn't just facing an alien invasion, it was caught in the middle of an ancient war. And the only way to ensure their survival would be to somehow break free from the conflict they had just stumbled into. But how could humanity survive in a galaxy already broken? How could they fight when their enemy wasn't just a fleet of warships? It was an unstoppable force of destruction, lurking just beyond the stars. As O'Hara digested this information, a new level of urgency settled over him. The Earth Defense Forces were crippled, and humanity's hope now lay in a simple, terrifying truth. They needed to prepare for the coming storm, but they had no idea what the Devourer truly was. The unknown force, the force that had reduced entire galaxies to dust, was coming for them. And there was no way to predict when it would strike. Dr. Reese's eyes were fixed on the screen, the data scrolls showing the vastness of the galaxy's decay. The worst part is, there's no real resistance. These alien factions, like the one we've encountered, they're just trying to survive. No one stands a chance against the Devourer. General O'Hara clenched his fists, the weight of his responsibility heavy on his shoulders. The only option now was to fight back, to attempt to push back the darkness that was descending upon them. But it wasn't just a fight for Earth anymore. It was a fight for the survival of every living being in their galaxy. A sudden transmission cut through the command center's comms. It was a single word, distorted by static, but unmistakable in its meaning. Asterisk Devourer starred. The word sent a chill through O'Hara. Earth's nightmare had only just begun. The Earth defense fleet had been destroyed in an instant, the alien armada merciless and swift. Now humanity had only one option left, to fight as though their survival depended on it, because it did. The burning remains of Earth's warships still drifted in space, a grim reminder of the catastrophic first battle. General O'Hara stood at the command center, watching the last vestiges of humanity's greatest military power crumble to nothing. His mind raced. Every option seemed to be running out. Sir, Lieutenant Vasquez's voice snapped O'Hara from his thoughts. The Council has authorized the deployment of the final contingency plan. We launch the remaining weapons now. It's our last chance. O'Hara's eyes hardened. The final plan wasn't one they had wanted to use. It was the desperation play, the kind of option reserved for moments when there was nothing left to lose. Humanity was now cornered. This wasn't a fight for victory. It was a fight for survival. What's our status? O'Hara demanded, pacing. Vasquez gestured to the large screen. We've only managed to activate a small fraction of Earth's remaining defense infrastructure. The last prototype warships are ready, but they lack the firepower to match the alien fleet. The odds aren't good, General. Give me the numbers, he growled. 4 warships in total, modified civilian ships retrofitted with military-grade weaponry. We have the planetary defense cannons still operational on Mars, but their range is limited. And then we have the Manticore, the experimental space torpedo. She paused, her voice catching. It's the only weapon that might have a chance against their fleet, but it's untested. O'Hara's gaze locked on her. Unproven doesn't mean unusable. We fire everything we have, all at once. As Earth's remaining forces mobilized, the mood in the command center grew darker. The air was thick with the weight of their last-ditch efforts. No more simulations. No more games. This was real. There was no turning back. The alien armada loomed at the edge of Earth's solar system, its size and ominous stillness far more terrifying than any active assault. The cold, brutal efficiency of their tactics spoke of an enemy who had long since shed any semblance of compassion. Their fleet didn't move. It didn't need to. They were merely waiting, watching. Targeting systems are locked, Vasquez called out. All units ready. Final launch sequence in 5 minutes. The countdown began, but O'Hara couldn't help but wonder if they were simply delaying the inevitable. Even with their best efforts, there was no telling if humanity could overcome this enemy. But Earth's forces wouldn't go down without trying. General, Vasquez's voice shook as she reported in. We've just received another message from the alien fleet. It's different this time. O'Hara felt a cold shiver crawl up his spine. The last message had been a grim prediction. What does it say now? Her fingers tapped rapidly over the console. It says, asterisk, your struggle is pointless. You cannot stop what is coming. Asterisk. O'Hara's hand clenched into a fist. The words echoed in his mind like a death knell. Your struggle is pointless. The weight of the enemy's words threatened to crush him. But he couldn't afford to falter, not now. He couldn't let humanity succumb to this, not without one final push. Prepare the Manticore, he ordered, his voice unwavering. The torpedo was Earth's last hope, an untested weapon of unimaginable power, designed to disrupt and destroy the core of the alien ship's advanced energy shields. If it worked, they would have a shot at breaking the alien fleet apart. If it didn't, they were all dead anyway. As the countdown ticked toward 0, O'Hara stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his officers. The only sound was the soft hum of machinery, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. "Launch sequence initiated," Vasquez said, her voice grim. The first warships fired their volleys at the alien fleet, a series of blasts that lit up the void of space like distant stars. But the alien ships didn't flinch. Their shields absorbed every strike with terrifying ease. Earth's final weapons, designed with the most cutting-edge technology they had, barely made a dent. Then came the Manticore, the torpedo, a weapon designed to destabilize the very fabric of energy around the alien ships, launched from Earth's final warship, streaking toward the fleet with a trail of bright blue light. O'Hara's heart pounded in his chest as the torpedo neared the enemy ships. For a brief, impossible moment, there was silence. No explosions. No war cries. Just the vacuum of space. And then, the impossible happened. The Manticore struck, and the alien fleet shuddered. The ripple through space was felt even on Earth, a shock wave that briefly distorted the fabric of time itself. The alien fleet's shields flickered, and, for the first time since humanity had made contact, the ships moved, not in their usual calm, controlled manner, but in panic. A ripple of chaos spread through the alien armada as the Manticore hit its target with a devastating blow. "Yes," O'Hara whispered, his eyes wide with disbelief. "We've broken through." But just as the fleeting hope began to bloom, a massive ship, larger than any they had seen before, emerged from the center of the alien fleet, its presence dark and foreboding. "General, the enemy, they've called in reinforcements." "It's them," Vasquez whispered in horror. The Devourer had arrived. Humanity's last stand had only just begun. The battle was far from over. As the alien reinforcement arrived, humanity's final hope rested with a small group of soldiers, warriors who would face the unimaginable and fight back, even if it meant certain death. The Devourer was unlike anything General O'Hara had ever encountered. A massive, dark vessel that dwarfed anything in Earth's fleet. It appeared out of nowhere, its sheer size and destructive potential sending a wave of dread across the command center. The Manticore had done what seemed impossible, crippling the alien fleet's outer defenses, but the Devourer was something else entirely. "General," Vasquez's voice broke the silence. "We're out of time. The Devourer is charging its weapon systems. It's about to unleash something that could wipe out the entire planet." O'Hara's mind raced. There was no way Earth's forces could defeat the Devourer with sheer firepower. The warships, even with their advanced technology, stood no chance against the creature's size and power. But then he remembered the elite warriors, an experimental special forces unit that had been trained for the most impossible missions. The Spectres, humanity's best and brightest. They had been preparing for years for a moment like this. They were the last line of defense, and O'Hara knew they were their only hope. "Get me Captain Morgan," he commanded, his voice low and determined. Within minutes, Captain Emily Morgan, a seasoned veteran with a reputation for taking on impossible odds, appeared on screen. Her face, hard and focused, betrayed nothing but resolve. "Captain, I need you and your team to infiltrate the Devourer. You're our last chance. If you don't succeed, humanity falls." Morgan nodded without hesitation. "Understood, sir. We'll take care of it. We don't have much time." As Morgan and her team prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives, O'Hara watched in silence. The Spectres were humanity's finest soldiers, trained in a variety of combat techniques, from close quarters to deep space tactics. They were the perfect unit for an infiltration mission on a ship like the Devourer. But even with their expertise, there was no guarantee they would survive. The team boarded the last remaining stealth shuttle, outfitted with cloaking technology that had never been tested in live combat. Their mission was simple, but suicidal. Board the Devourer, locate its core, and destroy it before the weapon could fire. The shuttle slipped out of Earth's atmosphere, its cloaking device rendering it invisible to the enemy. It was a one-way trip. "We'll hit the Devourer in 30 minutes. Morgan's voice crackled over the comms. "Stay sharp, everyone. This is a do-or-die mission. If we fail, Earth is finished." The shuttle's sleek, black form glided through space, its proximity to the enemy ship growing with every passing second. The Devourer loomed larger and more menacing in their sights, its surface pocked with weapons emplacements and strange alien structures. As the shuttle neared the enemy's hull, the cloaking system flickered. The tension was palpable as Morgan and her team prepared to board the ship, knowing that at any moment, they could be detected. "We're in," Morgan said, the words a grim relief. "Move out, team." They dropped silently onto the surface of the Devourer, their boots making no sound as they moved toward the ship's entrance. But even as they crept forward, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Their mission was to reach the core of the Devourer and disable its weapon systems. But there was one problem. The ship was alive. Not in a biological sense, but it was constructed from materials that seemed to pulse and shift as though it had a mind of its own. "The ship's reacting to us," whispered Lieutenant Chase, his voice tight with disbelief. "This isn't just a vessel. It's something more." Morgan didn't respond. She couldn't afford to. They had a job to do. They couldn't afford distractions. Inside the Devourer, the atmosphere was dark and suffocating, the walls pulsing with an unnatural energy. As they moved deeper into the ship, the eerie silence was broken only by the sound of their boots on the strange, organic material that made up the ship's interior. The Devourer wasn't just a warship. It was something far older and far more dangerous. "We're approaching the core," Morgan said, her voice steady despite the unease building within her. "Stay focused. We do this fast or it's all over." As they reached the central chamber, the lights flickered, and the walls seemed to close in on them. A low hum vibrated through the air, and the team froze. The core was within reach. But something was wrong. A low, guttural voice echoed through the chamber, vibrating the very air around them. "Asterisk, you will not destroy me. Asterisk." The Devourer had a mind, and it wasn't about to let them leave alive. The Devourer was no longer a myth or a legend. It was real. And humanity's last hope for survival rested with a handful of warriors locked inside its heart, facing an enemy more ancient and more terrifying than anything they could imagine. Captain Morgan and her team had no time to process what they had just heard. The voice that echoed through the core chamber of the Devourer was not one they had prepared for. The ship wasn't just a machine. It was sentient, aware, and it would not let them escape alive. "We need to move now," Morgan barked, her pulse racing. She could hear the hum of the core growing louder, as if the ship itself was waking up, ready to crush them under its weight. But it was too late. The walls around them began to shift, closing in with unnerving speed. The Devourer wasn't just a ship, it was a predator, adapting to their every move, anticipating their next step. "Status report." Morgan shouted into her comm. "Internal systems are locking down," Chase replied, his voice tight. "The core is destabilizing, shifting its structure to prevent us from reaching the weapon systems." They were trapped. The very ship they had boarded to destroy was now actively fighting to keep them from their objective. There was no way to go forward and no way to retreat. The Devourer had sealed every escape route. "Find the source of the voice," Morgan ordered, eyes scanning the chamber for any sign of a control system or weak point they could exploit. But the walls, the ceiling, and even the floor seemed to pulse with dark energy, as if the ship itself was alive, breathing. A low growl vibrated through the walls. The ship wasn't just resisting, they were being hunted. "Captain." Lieutenant Vasquez's voice crackled over the comm. "We've detected a new energy signature. The ship's core is directly in front of you, but the energy output is rising rapidly. You're running out of time." Morgan's heart raced. Every instinct told her to move faster, but the ship was closing in. Every step felt like they were being swallowed whole by the beast that surrounded them. The ship's hum intensified, reverberating in their bones. "Hold your ground," she ordered. "We need to disable the core before we're all wiped out. The Devourers seemed to respond. The ground beneath them trembled as an enormous tendril-like appendage shot from the walls, slamming into the ground just inches from where Morgan stood. The alien ship was fighting back, and it was fighting with everything it had. "Not good," Chase muttered, pulling out his weapon. "We need a distraction." Morgan's eyes narrowed. "We don't have time for distractions. Take the shot. Now." The team moved quickly, using their training to anticipate the Devourer's next move. Each soldier knew the stakes. They had to reach the core, and they had to do it fast. They fought through the darkness, dodging the ship's violent movements as they closed in on the core. But just as they were within reach, a massive energy surge blasted through the chamber, sending them flying back. The blast sent Morgan sprawling to the floor, her ears ringing from the shockwave. She blinked, struggling to focus, and saw the core just ahead, the heart of the Devourer pulsing with a dark, malevolent glow. "We need to finish this now," she shouted. "Everyone on me." With one final push, Morgan and her team raced toward the core, weapons drawn. The ship's defenses fought them every step of the way, but they were determined. They had come too far to fail now. As Morgan reached the core, she pressed a detonator into her hand, the last hope of humanity. She glanced over at her team. The battle had taken its toll on them, but they were still standing. "For now." "Ready?" she asked. "Ready," came the response, a chorus of determination. Morgan set the charge, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. And then the Devourer screamed. The core exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The ship trembled violently, its entire structure shifting as the destructive force tore through its very essence. The Devourer was dying, but the fight wasn't over yet. As the ship began to collapse, debris and alien fragments hurled through the air, threatening to crush them all. Morgan turned, her team already moving toward the exit, the countdown echoing in her mind. But something was wrong. "Move," Morgan screamed, but it was too late. The ship's walls were closing in once more. As the Devourer disintegrated around them, Morgan knew this wasn't just the end of the battle. It was the beginning of a new fight. The war was far from over. The Devourer was only one piece of a much larger puzzle, and humanity's true test was only beginning. Just as Morgan and her team made their final leap for the shuttle, a new transmission crackled through the comms. "Asterisk, this is only the beginning." Asterisk. And then silence.